All right, we'll see some people roll in here. And then we'll get started in a couple minutes after everyone's had time to join.
Hey everybody, hey David, hey Chris. Say hello if you want to in the chat. Bernd is coming in, that's great. It'd be great to let us know where you're from, where you're at. We get people all over the world, so it'd be great if you can just pop in the chat where you are. That'd be really cool. You're in the Ozarks, Martin. So, yeah,
Here I am in the Ozarks.
I'm in Cyprus at the moment.
From the beaches of Cyprus to the mountains of the Ozarks.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between for everybody else. Cool, we'll give it another minute and then we can get into it.
So put your questions up. We'll try and answer them if relevant as we go, but we can't always do that if we're in the flow. So we'll definitely try and work through any questions people have as we get to the end. So please put your questions in as they come up. Really happy to answer them, obviously. And yeah, get you into a high-level leadership position, or perhaps your first one. Ed's in, Chris is in. Nobody else is going to say where you're from? I hope the chat's enabled.
Well, today's...
Sorry?
I was just going to say today's topic, why it was really important for me is because as I was wanting to grow my career, go from a senior individual contributor, I found that it was very obtuse to figure out how to get into the next step. It was very much a black box for me. It's like, what should I start doing? How should I start behaving? Who should I be talking to? How should I carry myself as a leader if I want to become a leader? And so the hope with today is that we're going to give you some things to think about as you're making that step. Maybe you're already in some leadership position, but wanting to go higher. There's different things at each level. And so that's the focus of today.
Okay, so yeah, people are joining us.
Let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So a little bit about myself. I'm Todd Larson, the co-founder of Tech Leaders with Stephen here. And I'm a fractional CTO currently. My background is in early stage startups as well as later stage Fortune 100 companies. And I love building products and everywhere in between, both building products and building teams.
And I'm not technical at all. Well, I suppose my technology is people. That's my fascination. So I started my career studying how people think and how to change behaviors and help people get better results nearly 30 years ago. So that's my background, which when we came together, came from completely different backgrounds. I'm very proud I have a Mac, but don't ask me why it bleeps sometimes. So I'm not technical at all, but yeah, my technology is people.
Amazing. Part of why we came together is how we bring the two perspectives together to deliver on this mission that's really important to me, because earlier in my career, I started to get really, just quite frankly, pissed off that people in business positions, they were non-technical, they weren't even doing the building or having the big insights to deliver a solution. Those business people were taking all the recognition and upside for these big projects I was working on. And so at a certain point, I just started to get first frustrated and annoyed, but then actually pissed off about it happening, and decided if I could add the skills that they had to my own skill set, they were not going to be learning the skills that I had. So it would make me stand alone and really stand out as someone who could do both the non-technical and the technical. And so that's how you actually become an influential business leader. And this has become my personal mission for my career, and now our mission for what we're doing with tech leaders.
And when you know, for many years, I've been working with people in the tech sector. I've worked with really great, talented people who had way more influence than they realized they had. So sometimes they didn't realize the amount of power and scope that they had. And this really came down one day when I was working with somebody in a pretty large tech company, and we were doing a workshop on leadership and management. And someone said to me, before I came on this program, I didn't even consider the word leadership. It just wasn't in their vocabulary, even though they were absolutely pivotal in the leadership of, one, the product development, and two, the literal thousands of people who were then developing that product. But it hadn't even occurred to him to use that term. So this is where the strange thing happens, is that people are often, you know, they are in leadership positions, but they have no idea about leadership, even to the point of not even using that word. So that was quite a revelation for them. And it's a shame, because they were a leader. They were incredibly influential, just didn't even cross their mind that they were being a leader, let alone having the skills to be able to do it really well.
So I want to overview what we're going to do today. First thing is just talk about, who is this for? And then we're going to talk about what are some of the gotchas that you want to look out for as you're stepping further into leadership. There are some common pitfalls and mistakes. And then we're going to get into an actual worksheet. And this is the workshop part of today. We're going to step through the different questions that you need to think through and come up with the answers on to develop your own approach to leadership. So we'll share that the link to that worksheet out when we get to that step. And then we probably won't have time to get through the whole worksheet today, but that'll be something that you can work on after this session to give you that clarity for the next step. And then,
so,
go ahead, Stephen. Yeah, no, you go.
So I was going to go, who is this for, really?
Yeah. So who is this for?
If you're here, hopefully because you've got some form of ambition. And sometimes actually admitting you have ambition, or you have a desire to improve yourself, sometimes that's, you know, hard for people to say. But leaders need ambition. Leaders, and you know, sometimes we get criticized for having an ego, and I don't like that word because it's so misrepresented. But you need to have that belief in yourself that you can deliver more, have more influence. So this is for people who got experience, you know, hard-won experience. You've got the skills and talents, but often the people that we work with are frustrated that they're not listened to. They're not at the table of strategic level decision making, that they want to either internally work as a high level business leader within an organization, or externally, so as an independent, as fractional CTO, as a consultant. So we're really concentrating in this session on the internal side. Next week we have another one on the fractional side as a consultant, which you can join, because that's a slightly different track. So when we're working with people, sometimes they don't know which direction they want to go. Perhaps, you know, they start with one direction and realize, hey, I want to change my mind. That's completely fine, because we work and what we teach goes both ways. But we want to work with people who know that they can actually have more impact and want to have more impact and more influence. So if you have that ambition and you're feeling that you haven't got that level of recognition, or you don't have that level of influence or even power, if you want to use that word, this is what we want to help people make that step from taking those amazing skills that are hard won into something that, well, people will listen to, so you can have more influence and impact. So yeah, and ultimately people who want more control of their careers, who want a pathway, know how to create a pathway, the same as you would the roadmap for a product. What's the pathway and the roadmap for your career? So this is hopefully you're in the right place for that reason. So this is what we're about. This is what we do.
So what Tech Leaders is all about is accelerating your career, whether you're going from a senior to a leader or a leader to a fractional CTO, as Stephen just said. And we've got three main components to that acceleration process. The first is the Tech Leader program. And that's where you're going to learn all the skills, the non-technical skills in the business sense that we talked about. And you'll experience the community of other people who are going through the same career transition that you are. And then the other big piece of this is the coaching, and particularly the private coaching that you get as part of being in the program with Stephen and I. Stephen, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to cover as we go through the workshop part of it is very much where people hold themselves back. So the skills is one thing, well, first of all, roadmap. What's the roadmap? Then what are the new skills you need? So that's what the Tech Leader program is really about. And then obviously the community to, be with a bunch of people who are doing very similar to you. But one of the most important things is sometimes some people need some coaching, private coaching, simply because they have imposter syndrome that gets in the way, or too much self-doubt. So we're going to talk about that and how it's relevant. You may not have that issue, but 40% of people do. So the private coaching is to deal with that. So then you can then pick the right roadmap, believe in yourself. And we're going to talk about that more, but these are two very, very important elements. And this is why we provide them. So you may not need both, you may only need one. But they're there just in case. It depends on what you need. So let's get into the actual what we want you to be better at.
Yes. So I think at a high level, one of the most important things we can do to step into leadership is about leverage, creating leverage through the tasks that we do, as well as the teams that we build. And so at an essence, that means becoming more strategic. What does that mean beyond that, Stephen?
So when I look at business, I look at it in terms of three levels. As it says there, strategic vision, tactical planning, and operational tasks. Most of the people that we work with who come into the program are really good at operational tasks. They're really good at the detail of the technology they have. They know how to implement it. They know how to get things done. And they may be reasonable at the tactical planning of the roadmap, but a lot of them have a problem really grasping how to take what they know and plug it into the strategic vision of the business goals that perhaps the entrepreneur or senior business leaders have. And I was speaking to someone just today about this, that they turned up with a very, very detailed and comprehensive plan of what they can do, and the two stakeholders said, yeah, but how does it connect? So this is a skill that often people need to practice, and it can be a bit of a jolt to, we often think we're strategic, but what does that really mean, and how does that connect with the business goals? And if you're going to be going higher up in an organization, or if you choose the fractional CTO track, you need to do that for yourself. So this is why we start at this point. If you can think as a strategic person, as a strategic leader, then you're going to get far more leverage out of the operational knowledge and experience that you have. So this is when we're going to dive into this in the worksheet.
One of the things that I think just makes this so hard, this transition so hard for us, is that as engineers, we're used to dealing with the details. Like the details typically fall on our shoulders as individual contributors. And so it can be really challenging to let some of those details go to be able to move up onto a higher strategic level. So this in particular is one of the biggest challenges for us, I think, as we're making this transition. And then there's another big gotcha here.
Go on, you do the gotcha, go on.
Well, I just think as we're doing new things, it's really helpful to have a call out or a shout out of certain things, certain gotchas that we need to look out for. And for me, this was one of the biggest gotchas that tripped me up. I didn't even have the language to put around it until I met Stephen. But this was one of the biggest things that tripped me up, is that I wasn't updating my definition of work. I kept doing the old things I was doing despite taking on a new leadership role. And that then led to feeling burned out, firefighting, because I was just taking on more responsibility, not updating my definition of work. So Stephen, tell us more about definitions of work.
So most people spend most of their time doing something that they know very well, they are confident in, and that's got you to the position you are at now. But as you go into a leadership role or higher up in a leadership role, depending wherever you are, what you'll actually do will change. So this is a completely new skill set. And this is one that, it's almost like a criminal thing that engineers get lumbered with, is that they are really good at their job. They often become a team leader, or they're asked to manage part of a process or a project. And they realize they are now doing a completely different job with very little understanding of what that job really is, because leadership and management is incredibly complicated. It's a lot of skills. And I've seen this many times with the people I've been working with. Todd, you actually experienced this. That's how we actually met each other, because Todd had been through this. And it's like, no one tells you that the job you're going to do is very, very different from the work that you've been doing well, which has built your reputation that got you to the position of almost accidental incompetence. No, I'm not saying you're incompetent, but you're now doing something that is really very, very different. So this is almost one of those criminal things that happens in business, and it happens in every sector, but it definitely happens in the tech sector, where people suddenly find themselves going from being very, very confident and very praised to, I don't know how to do this. And the stress and the pressure and the burnout comes because now you're trying to do something you don't know how to do. This is why we created tech leaders. But what we tend to do is we tend to go back to what we know, so we feel that we're doing something valuable and productive, and people find themselves in this no man's land of, how do I be a leader, but I'm still doing all the work that I used to do? So updating your definition of work, so this is now my new role, this is what I really do, and get comfortable with it. And then very importantly for your career, it's actually how you communicate that new definition, how you show people your new value, why you shouldn't be down in the weeds doing a lot of operational tasks, but you should be tactical planning and vision level, strategy level stuff, where your knowledge and experience has way more value than doing individual tasks. So it can be hard to shift that because you're going into something new and unknown, and perhaps you're not so confident at. So this is why we created Tech Leaders, to help people create that jump, because this is what Todd discovered, and he had to work out how to do it. And that's why we met, and this is why we built the program. So we're going to go into that in the worksheet. Sorry, Todd, you were going to just comment on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that this gotcha right here is potentially the number one problem why people who, if they have tried leadership positions in the past and didn't enjoy it, it was because they didn't update definition of work. And this was something that I really had to wrestle with, which was, how do I feel good about a day's work as a leader if I'm not contributing directly to the code anymore? And that was a big part of me feeling satisfied and fulfilled with the impact I could make as a leader. So just want to call that out as a really important piece of this.
But if you get it right, you create way more impact and create way more value if you can make this jump. So that's one of the things that we're going to be focusing on in the worksheet in a moment.
Yeah. Gotcha number 2. This is a gotcha around our thinking and the way we think about our goals. Stephen, tell us more about this here.
Yeah, and this is where we start to get into imposter syndrome. And even if you don't have that, are you really clear on your professional and personal goals? Because if you're going to go into an area which is new, different, unknown, possibly a bit scary, you haven't built confidence in yet, you've got to have some pretty strong motivation to take you out of, what's known as the comfort zone. So you're here on this workshop because you obviously have that ambition, you have that desire, or you're in it at the moment and perhaps you're struggling a little bit and you need those skills and you want to be good at it. So it's your personal and professional goals of what you really want to achieve that is going to give you that motivation. And if we don't have those very clear, we a lot of people end up with goals that they think they should be going for. And this happens a lot because it's like, this is what I was told I was good at, or this is how I get approval or recognition from other people, or I really want to do something over here, but am I good enough? This is the imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? And we hear this all the time, really smart people who are really competent, and often they proved their level of skills. But what happens is they hold back. So just kick on to the next slide, if you would, please, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This imposter syndrome and what I call sabotage thinking or sabotage loops, this gets in the way of you being really clear about what your goals are. And if you're aiming for the wrong goal, or you're not sure about it, or you do know what your goals are, but then you hold back from taking action, and this is what imposter syndrome and sabotage thinking does, then you can have the best goals in the world, but you won't go for them, or you won't let yourself go for the right level of goals. You can just kick it forward one more, please, Todd. So this is what we then get. These revenue loops, recursive revenue loops. So if we have imposter syndrome or fear of failure, or fear of taking a risk, or fear of being judged or criticized, and I remember what it was like, because I've been studying this for 30 years nearly. And I realized once I studied them with my clients, what was going on with my clients. Why were they holding themselves back? Why did they not believe in themselves? Why did they not do the things that they knew they should be doing and they could do? And then I realized I was doing exactly the same. I was part of the 40%. So everybody, and this is a really important thing, everybody has imposter syndrome from time to time. Everybody is meant to doubt. Everybody is meant to think, oh, can I do this? And if you're doing it at the right time and the right place, it actually helps you be more successful by making better decisions. It's actually part of the decision-making process. It's actually the step number 4. But if it gets out of control, then we end up with a big battle and a conflict, and we doubt ourselves. We doubt our value, doubt our capability. We're always looking for somebody else to say we're good enough. We won't take good calculated risks because our brain is just going, this is a huge problem, you better not do this, and we hold ourselves back. So these revenue loops then turn into, if we undervalue ourselves, we then tend to underprice ourselves, we underpromote ourselves, so we won't tell people how good we are, we're embarrassed about it, we don't have confidence in the sales process, we don't market ourselves, we don't just network and tell people in the organization, this is my true value, this is what I'm good at. And we underniche ourselves, which means we don't go for the level of role that we could go for. We aim too low because we only believe work should be at that level. And it happens so often, it's painful. And I get, as you can tell, very impassioned about it, because it's like talented people who accidentally are getting in their own way. And this is what the one-to-one private coaching is about, to solve this problem. Get it cleared up quickly, no matter how long you've had it, get it done, get it out of the way. So then you can really look at, this is my true value. This is my level, this is my skill set, and I'm proud of it, I'm confident about it, and I should be going for this level in an organization, or I'll start my own business, or both. So these revenue loops are often the markers of when we have got this sort of stuff going on. So I just want you to think to yourself, we're not going to ask you, but any of you doing this, chances are a lot of you will be, maybe 1, 2, or all 3. So clear that out of the way, then you can be really clear on your goals. And then guess what? You'll let yourself take action, because you won't be getting in your own way. So this is why this is so important, because you can plan and have goals as much as you like, but if you won't let yourself take action, because there's a voice in the back of your head saying, you can't do that, you're not good enough, what happens if you fail? And it's an excessive amount. You don't need that. So we tackle this because it's just so common. Simple as that.
Imposter syndrome is probably one of the single biggest problems in our industry, not just our industry, but the world. And so we're glad that we're able to help people with this.
So what we want to take you through is just a simple model. This is where we're going to go start getting into, the workshop itself now.
These are the things you're going to need to complete the worksheet that we're going to share here after these. And so this is really helpful frameworks to think through the worksheet itself.
So the Genius Zone, which I wish I'd named it differently, is based on something that's very, very important. And the first thing is what you like doing. Often what we do is we think about our skills. So we get hired on our skills. You know, you're good at JavaScript, you're good at this, you're good at that. But actually, as you taking that knowledge and experience, the thing that you really want to think about is, are you more of a natural innovator, more of a natural manager, and are you in the worker zone doing too many operational tasks? And actually, well, where's my greatest value? What is it I enjoy? So it's a very simple model, but it's very powerful. We use it in two ways. One, to help you find your value and what you really want to go for. So this helps you in the direction of what sort of tech leader do you want to be, because not everybody's the same. Okay, I'm going to explain that in a second and why that is in a second. But also, if you know where your genius is, where you're the most valuable and where you're enjoying yourself the most, you tend to do better work. But also, who do you need around you in a team? What are the other people that you need to complement you so you stay doing what you enjoy the most? So very, very simple. As you can see there, 3 options. Now, innovators like to create. That's what innovators do. So you've got some knowledge and you're always thinking, well, how can I do this? How can I invent this? How can I make this better? What company can I create? How can I improve this product? How can I improve this function? How can I improve this process? So if you're somebody who's always thinking, oh, what's the next new thing I can think about this? How can I, create, innovate on this? This may be you. Now, managers, and this is where I just want to jump on this really quickly. There's a very big difference about the word I'm going to use compared to how people think about it as a management style. And this is the word managers like to be in control. Now, not controlling, not a controlling micromanager. It's not about the style of managing. It's just you really enjoy processes. You really enjoy creating efficiency from chaos. You're really good at making things work smoothly, and you really enjoy doing that. So this is nothing to do with controlling managers and controlling and horrible people. Please take that and throw it over there, because it's not about this at all. It's just simply about, do you like and are you good at processes, organization, efficiency? And then these are the things that create scalability in a business. So have you ever worked with anybody who's a brilliant innovator, comes up with amazing ideas, but are so chaotic to work with that they're all over the place? Most of us have. Mm-hmm. So if you are somebody who likes process and organization, working with somebody who is very chaotic may be very, very frustrating. But actually, this could be your genius zone of how to, work with someone like that, take their great ideas and make it happen. So workers are people who get pride in what they do, taking their knowledge and their experience and being good at the job of applying that knowledge. So innovators, the word there is create. Managers like to control, but not in a controlling manner. They like organization and process, and whether it's money or people or systems, or it could be anything. And workers get their satisfaction out of applying their knowledge. So if I said to you, what was the one you like to do the most? What is it? If you had to pick one, what would be the one you pick first? So Todd, yours is?
Mine would be innovator. I enjoy that the most, but the majority of my career I spent in the worker quadrant.
So now what I want you to think about is, do you have a second one? Do you have a second preference? Because most people do, not everyone does. So we have a first preference and a second preference. If you could spend most of your day doing the first one, great. If you could spend the rest of your time doing the second one, what would the second one be? Todd, yours is?
I would say my first one would be innovator and second one would be worker.
Okay. So you like taking your knowledge and innovating with it.
Yep.
And the third one, which you don't like doing, and that's the essence of it.
Managing.
Okay, so and this is really important. This is not about strengths or weaknesses. This is about what's my first preference? What do I like doing? Where am I most valuable? What is it I enjoy most? What's my second one, if you have that? And the third one usually is the opposite of those two. And that's the one you tend to neglect. So if you are an innovative leader, because most leaders are in the innovator zone, you can be very, very innovative, but the thing you probably tend to not pay attention to as much is the management controls. So knowing where you are and starting to get a grasp of this in this very short period of time is very useful, because when you know, this is where I am, this is what I would prefer, sorry. The next question is, where do you spend most of your time? So if you're like Todd, an innovator, but on the right-hand side, the worker side, and you would have put a little cross there, this is where I am, but you spend most of your time in low-level work and not innovating, or in managing of processes or something, you're probably not going to be enjoying work very much. So how do we get you out into that, your area of genius, your zone of genius, is the important thing. So the first thing is, where do you want to be? And then just ask yourself the question, how much of your time do you actually spend doing that in the real world? Because when you're spending your time doing what you really love, you tend to work better, your reputation goes, you get paid more. So this is the first glimpse into this. So we can go, in the program, we go much deeper. We help people really identify it. But I've never met anybody who likes all three. I've met loads of people who are skilled in all three, and I've met loads of people who are skilled in one or two, but I've never met anybody who likes all three equally, because this is about what you prefer. So this is not about skills, this is about what you enjoy doing the most. And this is the first thing on your trajectory of what sort of tech leader do you want to be? Are you a procedural person? Are you really good at creating processes? Are you at the moment really good at making sure they work efficiently? Do you have great product knowledge or technical knowledge which you innovate on? Are you a problem solver? What is it that you're really good at? And that starts the compass of where do you want to go, and what sort of tech leader do you want to be? So we've got to move on from this, but this is to start to get you thinking, because this is algorithm number 2. If you want to change the result you get comes from what you do, the actions. But all actions are preceded by a decision. And all decisions are preceded by how you can think about things. So this includes what you know, skill set, knowledge, and how you approach it. So when you change how you think about something, then you can create a different decision. Then if you take a different action, and therefore you get a different result. So if you procrastinate over doing something, it's in your thinking where you've chosen to procrastinate. If you've got imposter syndrome, this is why we push this so hard as being so important to clear up. If you're having a battle inside your head and you know you want to move up in your career, but then you hold yourself back and you won't take action, that's an active decision you've made to listen to the imposter syndrome voices inside your head. When you turn those off, then you'll think differently, act differently. Sorry, decide to act differently, and the results will come. And one of the people on the program at the moment, they have been promoted. They are delegated more, so they have more time. They now have 3 teams that they're managing, when they were not coping with one team because they were getting into all the low-level detail work and were absolutely involved in all the decisions at the lowest level because they felt they needed to be that involved. But within just a few months, they've delegated and moved up in the leadership position. They now have 3 teams that they lead, but now have more time because they're delegated, they're not in every meeting, their teams are enjoying it more because they're more trusted, and they've just started their first business. And that was all down to their belief in how they were thinking about what their definition of work should be. So this is just a very quick example. Change your definition of work, change your thinking, understand your value, and then amazing results happen because you just make different decisions and you act differently. So this is what we're talking about. This is the nuts and bolts of this. This is what we want you to do as well.
It's an amazing example. When these things are aligned, you're in your genius zone, you're working through the TDAR framework properly, you're able to actually increase capacity and still take on more to create even more results. So just want to underscore how impressive that is. So let's get into the worksheet. I'm going to drop a link here in the chat. And the Genius Zone model and the TDAR framework is going to come in handy here as we get into it. So if you want to open up that link there, you'll see there should be a duplicate button at the top where you can make your own copy of this worksheet so that you can actually write in your own answers. And we're going to overview some of these questions, but a lot of this is meant to be food for thought. There's a lot to answer here. And it can take some time to really sit with it, and it really helps to have some perspective from a sounding board. So let's step through these, Stephen. We've got the 4 steps in here, so let's break down what are the 4 steps.
So as we said, there's 4 steps. So as much as it may surprise people, it's actually setting your personal and professional goals. Because as I said, if you're going to be shifting in your career, you've got to have the motivation. And so this is not just about setting goals. Hey, what's an arbitrary goal? It's about actually being so compelled and motivated to do something different and new and possibly a little uncomfortable and outside your comfort zone. You're so compelled to do it that you will take action in the think, decide, act, result algorithm, the TDAR process, as we call it. So the first thing I want you to think about is, what are your personal goals? What is it that you really want? And often when we say personal goals is, what does that mean to you? And this is where it's about your pride in yourself, saying, I did this, I provided for my family, I achieved a lifestyle that I really want. These are the things that really motivate us, because it's us saying, and I was talking to one of the, doing some one-to-one just before I came on this workshop. And the question I posed to somebody a couple of days ago was, is it okay to play by your rules and go for what you want? And they had a huge amount of, doubt and conflict over that, because their family never achieved anything that they're achieving now. And they felt it was wrong. They felt it was not right for them to achieve this. So the purpose of setting these personal and professional goals is, can you set them and be really convinced, and so there's not a thing in the back of your head which is saying, oh, you can't do that, that's not possible, or you don't deserve this, or you're not smart enough for this, or who are you to believe this, or that's too scary. So what we really want to do is, yes, set the goals and the direction and give you the motivation, but what we really want you to do is smoke out any underlying imposter syndrome, sabotage thinking, or excessive doubt that will stop you from taking action. So a lot of people will go, these are my goals, but then the other side of their thinking is going, you can't do that. And we want to know that, because everybody I work with that has this problem, they want to achieve more, they want to achieve and live the way they want to, they want to do the things that are right for them, and they prove they're intelligent, they've got experience, they've got case studies of when they've achieved the things within their work that says yes, they are that good. But the imposter syndrome comes and squashes it, the self-doubt squashes it. So the reason for setting the goals is not just setting the compass about what you want to achieve, it's not just about getting the motivation, it's actually the last 2 things. Am I absolutely confident in what I want? Am I undervaluing myself, underpricing myself, under-promoting, under-niching? You're not going for what you really should be going for, because imposter syndrome or any form of self-sabotage thinking is getting in your way. And the reason people don't set goals mainly is because if you don't set a goal, you can't fail at it. So what we do is we have vague dreams and wishes. But people who are leaders say, no, I'm setting a direction. That's the job of a leader, the strategic vision. So you need to do that for you. It's something to look at and celebrate almost when you hear that voice going, no, you can't do that. You're not good enough, because now we know what we need to fix. That's the bit we need to get out of the way. So then you can go back and look at your goals. And what generally happens when, if you do have this problem, perhaps you don't, and I'm sorry about going on about it if you don't, but it's so common. If you have clear goals that you're really confident, you'll get that motivation and you'll allow yourself to act. But if you have any sort of imposter syndrome or excessive fear of failure or whatever it is, when you turn that off, usually what happens is the goals get bigger, they get more certain, and they're your own, not what you think you should do or what someone told you were capable of. And that's a very weird place for people when they get to that stage, but boy, does it feel better than this conflict and doubt. So that's the first one. That's why setting your personal goals is so important.
Step two, we touched on this a little bit already around going from the operational tasks down in the weeds, which is where we all start our careers. So moving up the org chart, which requires moving upwards in the strategic direction. So how do we become more strategic to increase our personal valuation so that we can be the leader we want to be and get the opportunities we want to get?
So as it says there, where do you spend most of your time? So this back to the genius zone. Where are you, that experience you have, that ability to apply that experience? What do you want to be spending more time doing? So someone I was speaking to, yes, they are an incredibly good analyzer of problems. They use all their experience and they can come in very quickly and go, that is the root of the problem. And then they like then giving that solution, leading people into this is what you need to do to create the solution, but they don't want to be down in the weeds doing the coding stuff that they've done for many, many years, which gave them that experience and knowledge, but they're now applying that at a much higher level. Somebody else was very frustrated within the company they were in because they had all the knowledge about the product, but they weren't sitting at the table making decisions about the direction of the company from the standpoint of what new technology and new product and the product development can do. So what is it you want to be doing more of? What excites you? What interests you? What are you good at? And therefore then, what do you need to let go of? What should you be doing less of? Another thing that's really important, sorry, Todd, you're going to jump in then, yeah?
No, you go ahead, yeah.
And so therefore then, to get you to have that recognition, when we talk about recognition, what would impress your boss or your boss's boss if you achieved it for them? So what are their problems? What are their goals? What can you take from off from them and say, hey, let me handle that. I can handle this. So you can prove to them that you're capable at a level that they haven't pegged you at. They don't believe you're that good, that you can do that. What can you take from them? Say, I can do this, and you can prove it to them. And this is the demonstration of your changing your definition of work. And then delegation, because you need the time and the space, because otherwise you're going to take on loads and loads of more stuff and you're not going to have the ability to do all of these things. But what can you start delegating to whom? And often we go, I have no idea. Perhaps I haven't got a team at the moment. So you might have that awkward transition. That's quite common. But the next question is, am I good at delegating? So the person I told you about, they wouldn't delegate anything because they felt they needed to be doing everything and involved in every decision. So the second question is not just who to, are you skillful at it? Will you let yourself do it? So delegation is your key. Yeah, that's a key skill a leader needs. Do you want to jump this one, Todd?
Yeah, so this is where if you can figure out what your current valuation, and I'm just kind of using this terminology as a way to think about what we're able to do, what we can bring to the table as people, and then also how it's perceived, because that's the other part of this. Like, we can be really talented at what we do, but if we're not letting other people know about those skills, we may not even have the skills because it's harder to apply them. So this is going back to updating the definition of work, which is usually the root cause of people burning out when they enter leadership for the first time, is that they continue doing what they were doing before, do not start delegating to the other people on their team, and then we end up just working around the clock. And this was definitely something I fell into when I first got my first leadership role. Is I was just constantly working, and I thought, wow, this is what leadership and management is. It's a lot of work. And so I missed the memo on updating my definition of work because nobody told me that, and there really wasn't any information about that. So this is an example of these gotchas that are so critical to look out for before they occur, and just get ahead of. And that's the hope of this worksheet, to start thinking through what are the certain elements of your old valuation, who you were before. As you update your definition of work, who are you now? Who are you becoming? And so these are some of the questions that can help answer that for you.
So do you think of yourself as a leader? When will you? Perhaps you do already, or perhaps you think, oh no, that's not me. So when will you let yourself think of it that way? And if you're not in a leadership position at the moment, what we always say to people is, like I said, what can you take off your boss? How can you show leadership to other people, even though you don't have a title? You certainly don't need to have a title to move it forward in the career ladder. Someone today, one of the people on the program, the company that they're going through, they're at a certain level. I'm being very careful here, but something was going wrong within the company, and they stepped up a higher level of leadership. And I said, you realize you're taking on the CEO position? And they were like, oh, I suppose I have, because the people in the company weren't doing what was necessary. So they didn't have the authority, but they took the authority because that's what leaders do, because they needed to get the problem solved. So you don't need the title. You may have a title at the moment, but what's the identity you're going to? Where you're going, going as a tech leader? And it may feel a bit weird and a bit strange, but you really need to start thinking about, who am I? Not just your skill set. And then
sometimes it can, I was just going to say, sometimes it can feel like a chicken or an egg problem of like, well, I want to be into leadership, but I don't have the title. And so this is the workaround for that, is to act like the role that you want to have, and to carry yourself like that ahead of time, because titles usually lag. It's a lagging indicator. The titles and the promotions tend to come after the demonstration of ability has occurred. And so you just have to start taking these steps instead of waiting for the permission and being granted the title.
So now we need to talk about multiplier skills. Now, multiplier skills are the extra skills. These are the non-technical skills that we work on, which make your technical skills way more valuable. So some people, it's confident communication. Some people, it's negotiation. Some people, it's strategic thinking. There's many different skills that you can add, which multiply the value of your technical skills. And this is the really important thing. When you have a set of technical skills at a certain level, when you are working at a higher strategic level, you need other skills to multiply the value of those, technical skills that you have. So what are the other things that you think, would be really good if I was far better as a communicator? Or how do I handle pressurized questions and stress in a meeting? Or perhaps just presentations. There's so many different skills. But if you start thinking about, what are the things I'm not so confident at? What are the things I just don't know anything about? How do I influence? How do I network? Could be anything. But if you start thinking about, what are the skills that I really wish I'd have, and you start working on those, that's going to massively multiply your value, because you can start using them, and people will be able to, get more out of these amazing skills and knowledge that you build up over time, your technical skills. So what skills would you think, I'm not very good at them, and which skills would you like to be more confident in? Simple as that. And confidence is made up of two things: your own personal perception of your value, how, I bring value to the table on this topic, and how certain you are about doing this. So people think, well, I want to be more confident, but they often don't know what confidence is. But it's really these two things. It's a combination of your belief in your value and how certain you are about dealing with this situation. So think about it in those two ways. To be more confident, these are the two things that you need to have. So what skills do you not really think of as being valuable, and which ones do you need to have be more competency at, so you can have the confidence to use them?
Awesome. That brings us to the fourth and final step into this world further, which is to actually communicate this and increase the perceived valuation, making sure everyone else is perceiving and knowing and aware of your new value and what you're able to bring to a given role or project. And so this is the second piece that allows you to make the impact, is letting people know, so that then you can be deployed to these projects and be assigned to different organizations and get those opportunities.
So who needs to know about this new valuation you put on yourself? Because you're probably at the level you are at because you are valued in a certain way. But if you know you're ready for the next level, you're ready for that next level of thinking, leadership, management, whatever, you may know that, but who needs to know it? So a good way to think about it is, what is important to them? How can I help them achieve this? Because they're going to want proof. They're going to want certainty. Again, they want to have confidence in you. So they want to see this valuation, and they want to know that you can actually do what you say you can do. So what's important to them? How can I help them? What problems do they have that if you took and said, let me handle that, I can solve that for you. If you can take the pressure off somebody higher up and you prove to them that you can, you're good at that, you've just elevated your value in their eyes. And then who will they tell? Who else can they network for you? So your reputation goes out. So this is just not a one-time process, but you want to show people that you have a different valuation. And so they really know, I always thought they were good at this, but actually they just did an amazing job at something different or a much higher level. The other thing to think about is, what are their personal and business goals? So if you know what their personal business goals are and you can help them achieve them, they'll be thankful. Now, some people are not necessarily good at showing that, but in that demonstration to people, they will be very good. You will have demonstrated how good you are. So if you think about, and this is looking strategically, higher level up, people have personal goals, they have business goals, they have responsibilities, they have problems. If you can look higher up in the organization and think, how can I help them solve their personal business goals? How can I get them to achieve what they want to achieve? They're going to change their perception of their valuation of you. And that's when they say, can you take this from me, and make this happen? And you get promoted. That's exactly how it happens. So what stresses them, and how can you take that stress off them? So this is the simplest way to look at this. What can you do to make life better and easier for the people above? So therefore they then say, wow, you stepped up.
Kind of gets into Shah's question here too. Let me just mark the answer live here. So Shah, I would say the overall strategy is to integrate the business with the technical. That's the high level strategy. How to actually do that comes down to deeply understanding the business goals and then mapping that to the technical solutions. It sounds simple and obvious, but that's actually where the majority of all problems originate, is the misalignment of those two sides. And so the more you can drive that alignment, show the business new possibilities through technology, it's very obvious to perceive value, because odds are no one else in the organization is doing that too, or anybody else that they interviewed is not doing that. And so it all starts with understanding the business and being that bridge between the two. That's the overall strategy.
And then as a secondary thing is then, what's the desires of the individual that you're targeting? So there's the business goal, who's responsible for it, get to know them, get to know the business goals, get to know them. And this is why two of the biggest things are strategic thinking at a more strategic level, but also people skills. Really understand what's making them tick, what stresses them, what they're after. And if you can put those two together, your valuation as a multiplier skill will go through the roof. So there's a lot of multiplier skills, but first of all is, what is it that you're just not very good at? It may be networking, it may be presenting, it may be strategic thinking, it may, whatever it happens to be. First of all, just think about that. Okay, how can I get better at this? But then really into a real life scenario, what's going on in the organizations that you're in at the moment, or if you are thinking of going down the fractional route, you do exactly the same for individual clients. Help them win, you will win. Help them succeed, they will appreciate you. Solve problems quicker, better, to a higher degree, faster, then you're going to be perceived as very, very valuable.
Good stuff. Here's the link again. It's in the chat. We'll also email this out to the worksheet, but what we'd like you to do is set aside some time where you can really deeply focus in a quiet space and think through these questions. Think deeply about the answers for yourself and what other questions they start to bring up. But what we're also offering here is to help you answer these questions. We found with talking with engineers a ton over the last year is that having a sounding board is incredibly helpful. And it can be hard to get perspective on these questions and hard to look back and reflect on your own career when you're so close to it. And so having somebody to talk through this stuff is incredibly helpful. And so we're here to help you with that. And the best way to do that would be to book a call. We've got a link here. I'll drop it in the chat as well. But you go here and you can get some time with us and actually talk through these things. And we'll help you answer these questions. And beyond that call, we also have the Tech Leader program and community and the private coaching. And I want to actually show you a little bit behind the scenes of like what that all entails, what it looks like, and how it can work for you and help you. One of the main things that comes with the Tech Leader program is the Tech Leader Playbook. And what can be really challenging when people are stepping into leadership for the first time or again is knowing what to do in certain situations. And so we've created this playbook that gives you situational context on a lot of the toughest issues that we face as leaders, how to handle it, what you should do, and then also links to curriculum to learn even more about the skills necessary to handle the situation. And so this is something that we're always adding to as time goes on and new situations come up, and we're able to help people more and more. And so the playbook comes along with it, as well as all the curriculum. And what we've put together here is curriculum for every possible topic and skill that you need as a tech leader. And some of these you may have already figured out and you don't need help with, but we've put it all here for the common problems that across the industry people are facing. And so part of the value of the program is coming into the one-on-one coaching and the private coaching, and you'll actually get personalized guidance and a personalized learning plan for what you should learn from these topics to help you in your specific situation. Whatever circumstances you're in, we'll guide you to the right curriculum and playbooks to handle it. And then there's also the program chat and community itself. And this is an amazing place to connect with other people who are on the same path, going through the exact same challenges you're going through. Maybe they've seen some things ahead that you haven't seen yet. It's an amazing way to learn from each other, shared our experiences, and also network for new opportunities. And then you'll also get access to all the coaching calls. We do coaching calls twice a week. And you get not only access to the coaching calls as part of the 6-month program, but you also get access to the back catalog and everything that we've done over a year now. And you'll get access to all those mastermind coaching sessions. And then you'll also get to book monthly private coaching with Stephen to dig into your personalized learning plan, get additional pointers and guidance and advice and support on the things that you're facing throughout the 6-month program. Anything you want to add to that, Stephen?
I just it's just our mission. I got a bit grumpy on your behalf. I'm not sure I needed to, obviously, but did anybody see the pictures of the astronauts for the new Artemis 2, isn't it, mission going back to the moon? And there was the traditional NASA picture of the astronauts in their spacesuits, looking all very nice, and we're very brave, and these smart people. But 3 out of those astronauts were military. There was 1 engineer in there. But what really got me riled was, why is it always pictures of the astronauts and not the thousands and thousands of really smart engineers and technical people who put them up there? And this is the Tech Leader mission, to make you lot more influential, give you more power, because as is widely known, every company is a tech company now. There's very few companies that operate without technology. So we want the smart people with more power, basically. So this is why we created the Tech Leader program, and we put everything in it, because we just want you having more control. That's the mission. We're having more influence, and getting the people who are often, the shakers and the drivers and the motivators and the entrepreneurs, listening to you more and paying attention. So this is what this is for. And this is why we're passionate. This is why we want you to come on and talk to us and accelerate your career, because I didn't like the fact that there was the standard NASA picture. There was 1 astronaut who was the engineer. Didn't talk about that. It was just the the right stuff going on. And where's the picture of all the geniuses that put them up there? So it's a whole team effort. And I just, I want you to have more influence and impact that your hard work, education, experience, and knowledge deserves. So that's me getting off my soapbox, but that's what Tech Leaders is really about, ultimately. Making you more influential in the business world and getting your knowledge out. Anyway, I'm done. I'm shut up. Sorry, Todd.
No, it's amazing. I'm just thinking, like, if every one of us was just a few percentage points more influential in our industry, how much better would the world be? The right ideas getting built in the right way, and getting that recognition and notoriety is what we're pushing for. So we want to help you with that. So thank you for tuning in today. Hope you got something out of it. We'll send out an email with a recording of this, as well as the worksheet, so you can go through it in detail again, rewind any of the pieces that you want to re-listen to, so you can get that worksheet filled out. But again, we're here to help you answer the questions in that worksheet, because these are the kinds of things that are really going to make a big difference in your lifetime earnings of your career. So looking forward to helping you all, and we'll talk more soon. Thanks, Stephen.
Cheers.
Bye.